Hello everyone, my name is James, and I will be discussing the case of Helvering versus Bruun. Hope I'm saying those names right. This citation's on the screen if you would like to look it up for yourself, but please feel free to ask any questions you'd like on the discussion board. Okay, so the background of my case is pretty simple. There was a landlord, Bruun, who leased a land to a guy for 99 years. There was an old building on that land, and the tenant wanted to tear it down and rebuild it. Bruun agreed as long as he didn't have to deal with the demolition and the construction and the stuff like that, and also made it clear he wouldn't be responsible to pay for it. That was in the lease. The tenant agreed and knocked down the old building and built a new one. He ended up not being able to complete the lease, but the building was paid for by the time he quit the lease. So Bruun takes the land back over and just goes about his day. The IRS comes in and says, no, you have to record that increase in property value as income because he didn't do that on his tax return, and so they end up going to court about it. So before I go to the next slide, I want to ask you, what do you think the court's going to say? Do you think they will side with the taxpayer, or are they going to say you have to report that gain? You don't have to stop the video, but post in the discussion board what you thought the outcome was going to be. So to put it into perspective, let's look at the following example. Suppose you owned this house. It's not a bad house, but it's not great. A tenant comes to you and says they want to lease your land and rebuild the house. And then, boom, this is what they build. Do you think you should be taxed on this when you get it back? Do you think the IRS thinks you should be taxed on this? Yes. How do you think the court's going to rule? So the Supreme Court rules that landlords do in fact realize a taxable gain when a tenant improves the landlord's property. This was a unanimous decision by the court that McReynolds took no part in. This resulted in a lot of worried lessors that weren't expecting to pay taxes on these types of gains. I couldn't find a lot of information about how well it was received, but you can imagine this came out of left field for a lot of landlords, so it probably was upsetting to say the least. It was apparently upsetting enough that Congress actually took action and passed new legislation in which they changed the code to exclude the improvements from the landlord's income. So on the flip side of this, the landlord is not allowed to increase his cost of the land, which results in a larger gain when the property is sold. So that's where the tax comes into play now when the property is eventually sold and a higher gain is realized. So in conclusion, Bruun tried to exclude the increase in property value from his income, and the Supreme Court ruled against him. Nowadays, you're taxed on the gain from the property, which will be larger if the tenant improves the value of the land. Okay, what questions do you have for me? You feel free to ask me on the discussion board. Also remember to post what you thought the outcome was going to be and why if you want to. Thanks for watching.